What's up, guys, and welcome in to a Texas recap edition of the Rally Time podcast. I'm your host, as always, Justin Babin. Christian is back here producing the show once again. LSU is coming off a series in which they lost 2 out of 3 against the Texas Longhorns in their first road series of the season. Christian, you were right. You were spot on, man, with your prediction.
I nailed it on the head.
Yeah, you nailed it, of 2 out of 3, and it's what I would say was an underwhelming weekend.
Yeah.
Underwhelming weekend as far as everything that went down that started so good. I mean, Friday was excellent. You know, there was a lot of energy in Friday's game because the place was packed in Texas, and, you know, it started with an absolute dynamite performance out of Cade Anderson that carried into Zach Cowan finishing the game out, and it started so well. But then, you know, Saturday and Sunday, the pitching really faltered, and that's something we're going to talk about. We're going to go in, break down all of these games like we usually do on every recap episode. I just have a few thoughts to open the show just about, because most of you, if you're tuning into this podcast, I would say probably got to watch at least some part of the series against Texas this weekend. Whatever you missed, we're going to talk about it, break it down all in depth, but just a few thoughts from me. You know, we said last week, Christian, that we weren't going to panic if they lost the series, and I'm not panicked. Like I said, I was underwhelmed by the performance. I wasn't happy with it, but it's better that it happened this early in the season than happen, you know, just a few weeks before postseason play. You know, this team has 24 more SEC games to go. And, you know, they won 4 out of their first 6 SEC games when they only won 3 out of their first 15 last year. So 4-2, still solid, still a good record. And that Texas team is a really good team, you know. Just looking at the D1 baseball rankings that came out today, they jumped LSU. Texas is now number 7 in the rankings, and LSU fell 6 spots to number 8
I think that's
in the
harsh.
rankings.
It's a bit harsh from D1, I would say. It was 1-2 going in with Tennessee and LSU, and I think for LSU to go to Austin for their first real competition of the season and drop 2 games, win the Friday night game, drop the second one in a heartbreaker, and then drop the third one the way they did, I don't think it warrants 6 spots, but that's why we don't care about rankings in baseball, and that's also why we think D1 is stupid, because as we've seen, not only are their rankings are bad, but are their live streams bad? And yes, they are.
Yes, they do have some good articles, some informational articles, I will say that.
Yeah, I'm sure,
but they helped me out, especially with the preview show. But little bit harsh, you know. Bottom line is, in my opinion, hitting is going to be good in most games, good enough in most games to score some runs. And, you know, we saw that, especially in the first 2 games. They scored 8 Friday and 7 Saturday. Now, Sunday, the hitting wasn't there. They really struggled against the Sunday starter, Ruger Riojas, who was dealing all day yesterday for Texas. The hitting most days are going to be, it's going to be good enough to win. Most days the hitting is. But the bottom line is, you can't just have 2 arms that you can rely on out of the bullpen and expect to win consistently in the SEC. Because Casey Evans and Zach Cowan are the only people you can rely on out of the pen so far through 2 weeks of SEC competition. I mean, Cowan and Evans were fantastic once again this weekend, but besides that, just really, you know, we talked about it at the beginning of the season, how many guys on this team throw 95 or 95 plus, but you can have the stuff, and a bunch of guys on this staff have the stuff, but if you don't have the location to match it, then it really doesn't mean anything, you know. And for 2 straight weeks, really just not being able to throw strikes in close games where you really need to, and it is really a necessity to throw strikes, to get in there, and to not walk batters, to not hit any batters, to not give any free passes. LSU has really struggled with that the first 2 weekends of SEC play. You know, you can have elite stuff, but if you don't have the location, you know, you just, it doesn't mean anything. I mean, look at Cade Anderson. Cade Anderson has elite stuff, but what happened on Friday was he was able to pound the strike zone over and over for 6 innings. And then Zach Cowan was able to pound the strike zone the last 3 innings of that game, and they didn't walk a single batter in that game on Friday. But then Saturday, LSU pitchers combined to walk 7 in that game in a really close game. But, you know, in those tough moments, in those moments where it's a 1-run game or it's a tie game, you cannot give up those free passes. You have to be able to throw strikes. Through 2 weeks, the only guys out of the bullpen, at least, who can say they've done that consistently is Zach Cowan and Kason Evans. Let's get into these games and let's break them down, what happened this weekend. We're going to start out on a really good note by discussing the first game of the series in Austin on Friday night. In Game 1, LSU won that game 8-2. Really packed crowd, really intense environment. You know, it was Texas's first ever time hosting an SEC game since it's their first year in the conference this year, and their first SEC weekend series at home was against LSU. So the place was packed, the place was jumping. LSU won 8-2, and in this game, again, it all comes down to pitching, and it did Friday to LSU's benefit, as both Cade Anderson and Zach Cowan were absolutely fantastic in this game, pounding the strike zone all game. Texas actually scored the first run of the game in Friday's action in the 3rd inning, after Texas had in the 3rd inning a bunt single, an infield single, and then an RBI bloop single by Texas's Jalen Flores. But then after that 1 run in the 3rd, Anderson was really dominant in his 6 innings of work. He only gave up 1 more run in the 6th via a solo bomb from Rylan Galvan for Texas, who Galvan was a nightmare, at least in the first 2 games for LSU. He hit a home for Texas against LSU. He hit a homer Friday and Saturday. He's been really hot coming into the LSU series. We talked about him last week. He's had I think at one point he had 4 straight games over this past week with a homer. So Galvan was good. But besides that, you know, Anderson pitched 6 innings and he was really excellent. He only gave up 2 earned runs on 7 hits, no walks, and 8 strikeouts. And he was just able to locate and pound the strike zone all game with 4 different pitches. And it was just all clicking for Cade Anderson on the mound. And it's what we needed to see for LSU. We kind of talked about how we needed to see a Cade Anderson shove day to get the series going, a top 10 series on the road. And Cade Anderson did that to pretty much perfection, all you can ask for. Moving to the plate, Texas ace Jared Spencer had some success with 8 strikeouts. But overall, LSU did a really good job of driving up the pitch count for Spencer, who he had thrown 50-plus pitches after just 3 innings, and he pitched only 5 innings total, with a total of 96 pitches thrown, which was a career high for Spencer. So LSU really drove up Spencer's pitch count, which was really good to see. And we talked about it last week, how with these aces you face, especially in SEC play, the big thing is how fast can you get them out the game and raise their pitch count up into, you know, can you make them throw 50-plus pitches to their first 3 innings of work and get them out after at least the 5th or something like that to go to the bullpen. And LSU did a nice job of that Friday against Spencer. After Texas scored 1 in the bottom of the 3rd, LSU responded immediately with a nice 2-run bomb from Luis Hernandez in the top of the 4th for his 3rd of the season. Hernandez's bat has been really solid the past few weekends.
It's definitely come alive, yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely come alive. I think he has 1 bomb in the past 3 weekend series. He had one against North Alabama, one against Missouri, and one against Texas. So his bat is heating up, and he's still playing really good defensively at the catcher position. LSU also scored 2 more runs in the 5th. Daniel Dickinson and Ethan Fry singled to start the 5th. Stephen Milam laid down a sac bunt to move the runners over, which was followed by a sacrifice fly to right by Josh Pearson that brought in a run. And then later in the inning, Luis Hernandez singled, had another hit, an RBI single by Hernandez again to drive in another run after Pearson's sac fly. So it was 4-1 LSU after 5. Texas ace Jared Spencer, Spencer was good. LSU's offense was able to hit off of him and really drive his pitch count up. And it was I loved the approach at the plate, especially Friday against Spencer. He pitched 5 innings, gave up 4 earned runs, 7 hits, 3 walks, 1 wild pitch, 1 hit by pitch, and 8 Ks. So Spencer was good, but it was a good job overall from LSU against Spencer, who has really good stuff and had been really good coming into that game against LSU. LSU did a good job against him Friday. Then there was, in the 7th inning, there was singles by Stephen Milam and Luis Hernandez that put runners on the corners with 1 out in the top of the 7th. There was a absolutely perfect safety squeeze bunt that was laid down by Michael Braswell that brought a run home. Chris Stanfield then had an RBI double. Jared Jones then had a 2 RBI single in the inning. So LSU scored 4 runs, had a really nice 4-run 7th inning, and they all came off of Texas's reliever Andre Duplantier II, who was really good the weekend before with three really nice innings against Mississippi State. So that was good to see. This team has proved this weekend that they can hit off of good pitching. Texas's staff was number 3 in the SEC in ERA. They were arguably a top 10 pitching staff heading into this weekend against LSU, and LSU did a good job, especially Friday and Saturday, against the staff of Texas. In the 7th inning, Zach Cowan came in for Anderson and Cowan pitched the final 3 innings of the game and was absolutely brilliant. Both Anderson and Cowan just pounded the strike zone all night. They didn't walk a single batter, which is really important, especially when we go to break down the contrast from the Friday game to the Saturday and Sunday games that we're about to get into. That really looms large. Cowan pitched 3 innings of scoreless baseball. He gave up 1 hit, no walks, and 3 strikeouts. On this game, Luis Hernandez was a star at the plate in this game with 3 hits, including his 2-run bomb in the 4th. He also had 3 total RBIs in the game, did Hernandez. And then Jared Jones had a pretty solid game with 2 hits and 2 RBIs as well. So it was a really good start to the weekend for LSU on Friday with that 8-2 win against Texas. But then Saturday was a very competitive game. That Texas ended up winning the game Saturday 11-7 in a really back and forth battle all game. Anthony Ianson was facing off against Texas left-handed starter Luke Harrison. The game was scoreless through the first 3 innings as Luke Harrison retired 8 of the first 9 LSU batters he faced. Harrison was really good early in the game. Ianson was solid, really solid in his first 3 innings. He recorded 5 strikeouts through his first 3 innings, mainly by use of his really good breaking ball. LSU got the scoring started by scoring 2 in the top of the 4th. Off of Harrison, there was a single by Jared Jones and a double by Daniel Dickinson to start the 4th. Ethan Fry got on base to load the bases after he reached first because the Texas first baseman couldn't field the ball, so that allowed Fry to get on base and load the bases in the 4th. Harrison then walked Stephen Milam with the bases loaded to bring home the first run for LSU in the game. That was followed by a fielder's choice that was hit by Luis Hernandez that drove in the 2nd run of the game and of the 4th inning for LSU. So good 4th inning for LSU. but Texas responded to LSU's 2 runs that they put up in the top of the 4th, with Texas put up 2 runs in the bottom of the 4th off of Anthony Ianson, with 2 singles from Jalen Flores and Rylan Galvan. That was followed by an RBI single by Adrian Rodriguez. Kimball Schuessler also drove in another run via ground out. So it was the 4th inning was when the fireworks started to kind of pop off, Both teams scored their first 2 runs in the 4th inning, so it was tied at 2 after 4. But it was good response by LSU in the top of the 5th. In the top of the 5th, the Tigers scored 3 runs after Texas had tied the game in the bottom of the 4th. LSU scored 3 runs in the top of the 5th. Chris Stanfield walked and Derek Curiel was hit by a pitch to start the inning. Then Jared Jones hit an RBI double. Really good job in the 4th and 5th against Luke Harrison. Luke Harrison was taken out of the game with no outs in the 5th and runners on 2nd and 3rd when a run had already scored in the inning via the Jared Jones RBI double. Texas pitcher Max Grubbs came in the game to replace Harrison. LSU scored 2 more runs in the 5th off of Grubbs via a Jake Brown RBI single when the ball fell between 2 Texas defenders. And then Steven Milam also hit a sac fly. Really good response by LSU, scoring 3 runs in the top of the 5th in the game Saturday. And Max Grubbs, who has been, without a doubt, the best Texas arm out of the bullpen. I believe he had a .98 ERA for 4th best in the SEC heading into this weekend in terms of ERA. And, he was up to, I think he pitched 20-plus pitches in his first inning of work for Grubbs, which is a good sign. Being able to drive up the pitch count is a really good thing that LSU's going to be able to need to get done. Tough games against tough SEC pitching, they're going to need to drive that pitch count up, and they did that. Ianson left the game in the 5th inning with 1 out and runners on the corners. I would say overall, I actually thought Ianson had a pretty solid day. He used his breaking ball pretty well. He pitched 4 1/3 innings, and he gave up 2 earned runs on 4 hits, 2 walks, and 6 strikeouts. You're rarely gonna ever see a shutout in the SEC. Like, you're rarely ever gonna see it. Your starters are gonna give up runs. That's just with how good these hitters in SEC play are. But overall, I think Ianson had a nice day on Saturday, a solid day. But then Connor Ware came in to replace Ianson with 1 out in the 5th. And on the first pitch of the game that was thrown by Ware, it was a passed ball that allowed a run to score for Texas on the first pitch of the game for Connor Ware. And then after that pass ball that allowed the run to score, Ware actually walked the first and only batter he faced. So he faced 1 batter, had a pass ball to start the at-bat, and then ended up proceeding to walk that batter, and that was the only batter that Ware faced in the game. And then freshman William Schmidt came in the game for Connor Ware. And what's really interesting is that I'm really high on William Schmidt as far as stuff. I'm pretty sure everybody is. I mean, the stuff is undeniable with his fastball and with how highly touted he was, turning down millions of dollars in the MLB draft to decide to forego the MLB draft and instead go to college and pursue his dream of playing as a Tiger. But Schmidt, through the first 2 outings of SEC play, has really struggled as far as command, and he has the stuff, but as we said earlier, if you don't have the location to match it, it really doesn't mean anything. And Schmidt gave up a 3-run bomb. Rylan Galvan hit a 3-run bomb off of Schmidt in the 5th that gave Texas the 6-5 lead. After Galvan hit the 3-run bomb, Schmidt allowed another double and then walked the next 2 batters to load the bases before he was taken out of the game and replaced by Connor Benj. So Yeah, it's just interesting to see what it's kind of like with Cade Anderson last year. Cade Anderson was really good in a weekday starter role as far as last year in his freshman season, but he came in during the regular season out of the bullpen a couple times in SEC play, and Anderson kind of faltered as a freshman. And Anderson's obviously great now. Like he's our best, he's LSU's best pitcher, but Schmidt, just as a freshman, I don't know if it's just adjusting to SEC hitting or something like that, but he's just really struggled. Like I said, he has the stuff, and I think he's going to be really good at LSU eventually. He struggled through his first 2 outings in SEC play of his freshman season, but Connor Benj came in the game to replace Schmidt, and Benj got a fly out with the bases loaded to end the inning. So the score was 6-5 Texas after 5 innings. Bullpen has to be able to throw more strikes when they come in the game to replace the starters. I mean, they take Ianson out in the 5th inning, and then in the 5th inning, Texas has a 4-run inning, and LSU walks 4 batters in the 5th inning. You just can't come in and walk 4 batters in 1 inning after you replace a starter. And that's not just Schmidt. That's, everybody who came in after him. Really just, you can't do that, especially in close games, and give up those free passes. But another really good response, I'd say the good thing is this LSU, at least hitting-wise, is able to respond after the pitching gives up a big inning, as Derek Curiel hit a 2-run shot in the 6th to give LSU back the lead. It was the 2nd homer of the season for Curiel, who continues to have just an outstanding and very special freshman season from Derek Curiel. Max Scrubs he threw 50 pitches through his first 3 innings of work. Again, really good job of working that pitch count by LSU. It was 7-6 LSU until Texas took the lead back in the bottom of the 7th with a 2-run inning. Jalen Flores hit a solo shot off of Connor Benj to lead off the bottom of the 7th. That solo shot from Flores tied the game. Benj was then taken out in the bottom of the 7th with 1 out and runners on 1st and 2nd. Benj came in, got out of that 5th inning, and then he had a 3-up, 3-down 6th inning, but he struggled a little bit once he got to the 7th. But I would say Connor Benj has been decent. He's definitely not on the level of a Cowan or an Evans through 2 weeks of SEC play, but I do like Connor Benj, and Jay Johnson obviously trusts him in high leverage situations. That's interesting. But DJ Primo came in the game to replace Connor Benj. Will Gasparino hit an RBI single off of Benj to score off of Primo. Will Gasparino hit an RBI single off of Primo when Primo came in the 7th. So Texas took the lead 8-7 after 7 innings. Max Grubbs, they drove up the pitch count, but he was really good against LSU. Was Grubbs? He had a really good performance, and sometimes Grubbs had a .98, less than 1 ERA heading into his outing against LSU on Saturday. So Grubbs is just a really, really good pitcher. Dylan Volantis came in for Grubbs with 2 outs in the 8th. In the bottom of the 8th, LSU gave up 3 more runs when Ethan Mendoza had a single to start the bottom of the 8th, but Josh Pearson actually kicked the ball away in right field, which actually allowed Mendoza to advance all the way to third base. DJ Primo was taken out of the game in the 8th with 1 out and a runner on third in a 1-run game. Jacob Myers, the transfer from Nichols, came in for Primo to pitch for LSU. Jalen Flores had another RBI single that he hit off of Myers. Dalton Beck came in eventually. Maverick Rizzi also came in. So just kind of like trying to piece the puzzle together in the last few innings of this game, just putting in, especially they had 4 pitchers pitch in the 8th inning for LSU. Kimball Schuessler hit another 2 RBI single off of Rizzi, and Texas really just pretty much ended the game with that three-run inning in the bottom of the 8th. You know, there were 2 more walks in the bottom of the 8th by LSU pitching. So again, you know, Texas won the game 11-7. And just what stands out to me is first game Friday, Anderson and Cowan combined to not walk a single batter. LSU staff as a total walked 7 in the game on Saturday. And when you walk 7 or 8 in a game in the SEC, in a top 10 game especially, you're most likely not going to win that game because you're just giving up too many free passes. To me, it's kind of like you're making them beat you're not making them beat you. You're beating yourself. Like, that's what you're doing when you go in and you walk 7. And it's just, it's disappointing and underwhelming because you know that the team has talent, especially, you know, hitting-wise, but definitely on the mound as far as, you know, the amount of guys on this team who throw plus 95, but just like the location has not been there. Besides, you know, Cowan and Evans, the location hasn't been there out of the bullpen through two weeks of SEC play. But that set up a rubber match on Sunday to whoever won the Sunday game was going to win the series. And the Longhorns eventually won the Sunday game 6-2. Chase Shore started the game versus Texas righty Ruger Riojas. It was interesting. I thought Jason Flores might start the Sunday game because what happened before was the weekend before, Jason Flores has started the last game of the series against Mississippi State, but Texas decided to put Ruger Riojas in the game and start him on Sunday against LSU, and Riojas just gave, we'll get into it in a little bit, but he gave LSU batters a lot of trouble. Rylan Galvan got the scoring started once again. I mean, he was just a nightmare for LSU pitching to handle in this series. Galvan started the game off scoring-wise with an RBI single with 2 outs in the first off of Shores. But then Shores did get a strikeout to get out of the first. He stranded runners on second and third and only gave up 1 run in the first, did Shores. But then he gave up 2 more runs in the bottom of the second when Will Gasparino got to second when the ball bounced off of the glove of Tanner Reeves and into the outfield. Then Tommy Farmer hit an RBI single for Texas. Ethan Mendoza had a single. And then Max Ballou hit a sacrifice ground out to drive in the 3rd run of the game for Texas. And Texas had the 3-0 lead after 2 innings. So the vibes were uneasy, especially in that Sunday game. It was just kind of like going into that game, you're coming off of a loss Saturday that was kind of like, you know, it was kind of like, I don't want to say heartbreaking, but it was tough, you know, taking that loss in a game that you had the ability to win if you threw more strikes and got more solid bullpen arms. So it was 3-0 Texas after 2 innings, and you know, Shores battled all game, but he just started behind 2-0 in so many counts, and it feels like it wasn't only Shores, but it was pretty much almost everybody out of the pen. When you start behind and throw 2 balls to start these at bats, the batters know that the next pitch you're going to have to throw is a strike. You're going to have to throw a strike, you know, and because of that, they're able to sit on pitches and really attack, you know, and get into hitters' counts. And that was a real struggle for pitching in general for LSU, but it was a struggle for Shores on Sunday as he started in too many hitters' counts that he had to fight to get out of. Ruger Riojas, again, he gave LSU bats really a lot of trouble through 4 innings. You know, Riojas only had 55 pitches thrown through the first 4 innings of the game, you know, and we talked about how Jared Spencer, I mean, LSU had gotten Jared Spencer's pitch count to plus 50 pitches in after the first 3 innings, and then Saturday. Max Grubbs, they worked his pitch count well also, but Riojas was really efficient. I mean, I think LSU tried to be more aggressive against Riojas. I mean, there was a fly out by Derek Curiel on one pitch to start the game, the first pitch of the game, and that kind of carried over to where Riojas was really efficient and only threw 55 pitches after 4 innings, so he still had a lot more to go. In the bottom of the fourth, Max Ballou hit a 2-run bomb off of Shores to extend the Texas lead to 5-0. Riojas, again, kept dealing through 5 innings as well. Shores got you 4 innings. And I'll say this, it wasn't great from Shores as far as, he gave up 5 runs, but, he did his job getting through 4. And he handed it over to Case and Evans came in to start the 5th. Came in for Shores, did Evans, to start the 5th. Shores, his final stat line was he pitched the first 4 innings of Sunday's game, and he gave up 5 earned runs on 7 hits, 2 walks, and 3 strikeouts. He fought hard all game, but he needs to throw more strikes, and it just feels like a lot of that could be said for a lot of guys on LSU's pitching staff right now. And you can't get behind in so many 2-0 counts where the next pitch you have to throw as a strike, because it just really allows hitters to sit on a pitch because they know you have to throw a strike, And then LSU did get 1 run off of Riojas in the 6th inning. Stephen Milam doubled to put himself and Josh Pearson on 2nd and 3rd with 1 out. That was followed by an RBI single by Jake Brown. Brown had an RBI single, and then there was a hard hit ball that Luis Hernandez hit, but unfortunately it was hit right at the second baseman for the 2nd out of the inning. After that, Riojas was taken out of the game for Dylan Volantis, who came in the game for the 2nd day in a row. Riojas, he really gave LSU batters a lot of trouble. Like I said, I really liked LSU's approach at the plate in the first 2 games, scoring 8 runs Friday, 7 runs Saturday. But really, I didn't love their approach against Riojas. They were aggressive, and they tried to be aggressive, which I can understand. But he was putting it in the right spot. He was really doing a lot of work down in the zone, and it really gave LSU trouble. And he was really efficient, was Riojas. Let's see, he had 5 2/3 innings of work and gave up 2 earned runs on 7 hits, 1 walk, 1 hit by pitch, and 7 strikeouts. There was a double steal later in the 6th inning for LSU that brought in LSU's 2nd run of the game, but Jake Brown was tagged out and a rundown after the run scored. So yeah, 2 runs scored in the 6th for LSU. There are only 2 runs on the game. Texas did respond by scoring 1 in the bottom of the 6th off of a Max Ballou RBI triple for Ballou. It was weird positioning to come in for LSU to start the bottom of the 6th and for the rest of the game, as Ethan Fry came in with runners on base in the 6th inning. He came in to pitch hit for Reeves, for Tanner Reeves, I think. And so Fry comes in the game, but with that double steal, Fry never actually really got to bat in that 6th inning because Jake Brown was tagged out on the double steal. So in the 6th inning, it was just weird to me to see Jared Jones was at 3rd base in the 6th inning. Jake Brown was at 1st, and Ethan Fry was in right, and it remained that way for the rest of the game, which was kind of weird to see. I didn't really expect that. I thought originally that it was because they wanted to let Fry have the at-bat to lead off the 7th, but, they kept that fielding position for the rest of the game and didn't go away from it. So that was kind of weird to see. I just kind of wanted to, highlight that. The at-bat before Max Ballou's RBI triple in the 6th, LSU had a double play to end the inning, but unfortunately the ball dropped out of Jake Brown's glove, He was trying to receive the ball at first base, but the ball dropped out of his glove, so LSU wasn't able to get the double play to get it out of the inning. And then the next at bat, Max Ballou hit the RBI triple to extend Texas's lead to 6-2 against the Tigers. Positive note, Case and Evans was again really, really good. Had another really solid performance replacing Chase Shores. He pitched 3 2/3 innings. He only gave up 1 earned run on 4 hits and 5 strikeouts before Cooper Williams came in to get the final out in the 8th inning when a Texas runner was caught stealing at home plate. But Case and Evans was really good again. Him and Cowan have been dealing out of the bullpen, but the thing that kind of stinks so far is they're the only arms you can really rely on out of the bullpen. It's unfortunate because the hitting has been good enough to win. They weren't really Sunday. I mean, Sunday the hitting wasn't good in my opinion, but most games, 5 out of the 6 games, the hitting has been really good in SEC play, and the pitching just has not been there in most games to start SEC play. After Riojas, Dylan Valantis also gave LSU a lot of trouble, just like Riojas. Valantis pitched the final 3 1/3 innings of the game and didn't allow a run or a hit with 1 walk, and he struck out 5 LSU batters. The LSU lineup struck out 11 times in the game yesterday against Texas. So the hitting, really you don't see a lot of games like that from LSU hitting, or you haven't seen a lot of games like that so far this season, which, I mean, it's okay. You're going to have a rough game every now and then. I don't expect that to continue at all. Yeah, I mean, they just kind of struggled in that game, but, as we kind of recap, just kind of what happened really, in the end, it just comes down to you got to be able to throw more strikes out of the pen. Like, you have to be able to do that. Like, again, Cade Anderson, Zach Cowan didn't walk a single batter, but in the next 2 games, just walks and free passes came to be a theme, I mean, Chase Shores walked the first batter of the game on Sunday, and it's something that LSU has to figure out. It's the most concerning thing for me and for a lot of people, I feel like, through 2 weeks and 6 games of SEC play. Anderson and Cowan they just showed you the blueprint. They were so efficient. They pounded the strike zone all night in game 1. They didn't allow a single walk. The next 2 games, it just felt like the pitching staff was always fighting from behind in 2-0 counts and walking batters, and it just made it really hard to not allow the big inning, and it allowed Texas hitters to, in those 2-0 counts, just sit on stuff, just sit on, find their pitch, because you knew that LSU pitchers were going to have to throw a strike with 2 balls to start the count. And it's just not advantageous for LSU, and it's not sustainable. And it wasn't sustainable on Saturday and Sunday, and it really came back to hit them where it hurt on Saturday and Sunday.
They lost, and I'll toot my own horn here. It kind of relates back to the point I made last week with this pitching staff being inexperienced. Inexperience in pitching leads to walks, and I know we made the point Gavin Guidry whatever last week, but man, you would have loved Gavin Guidry. You probably win the game on Saturday if you have Gavin Guidry for 1 inning or 2. I mean, that's really the truth of it. Experience matters in the SEC, and you saw it this week. I'm excited, though, for the rest of the season to see this team grow because, like you saw last year, you had a lot of pitchers step up last year. You had guys gain experience and start to come on late at the end of the year. And I think this team will do that and probably better because this team is more talented than last year's team. So,
yeah, again, I'm not hitting the panic button. Like, you come into the box this weekend for a Thursday, Friday, Saturday series against a Mississippi State team who we'll talk about later in the week in our preview show for them. They started 1-5 in SEC play, so they haven't been good to start out the gate either, and it's at home. So hopefully you're able to get back on track. But yeah, I mean, the big thing is this team is still in a good spot, 4-2 to start SEC play is fine. I mean, really, there's not much wrong with that. You know, you would have loved to win the series, of course, against a really solid Texas team. But, you know, it's just about efficiency. You just got to have efficiency out of the pen. And to me, what I was kind of shocked by is it was I think LSU had the lead in the 5th inning Saturday. And Ianson gets replaced and taken out of the game. And, you know, they went to Connor Ware. And then they went to William Schmidt. And stuff like that. And reflecting back on it, I'm kind of like, I think you should go to Case and Evans in that situation. Like, I really do. Because, think about it. Case and Evans came in to pitch the final, 3 innings on Sunday when you were already down 5-0. Like, that's not where you want Case and Evans to be pitching. You want him to be pitching when you have the lead and you're trying to close down a game. Like, or at least when it's a tie game, that's when you go to Case and Evans. It's just, you don't want Case and Evans to come in when you're already down 5 in a game where where your hitting is obviously not on point as it was yesterday. So, I think as far as, we'll kind of talk about it on the show later this week, but I really want to kind of just see where everybody's at. So I have, as we're about to close the show, but I have a few thoughts of my own of what they can do with the bullpen to maybe, I think, as you said, one part of it is getting Gavin Guidry back, which we don't know when that's going to happen.
It's like asking for Chris Hilton at this point.
It's like you need him back bad. Like, you really need Gavin Guidry back. I would throw some new arms out there. I have personally liked what I've seen out of Jaden Newt. I would like to see Newt get a shot. He did really good last week. I mean, it was against UNO, so sure. But, I mean, it can't get
any worse.
It can't get any worse.
It can't get any worse.
Like, give them a shot is what I'm saying. I think that's an option. I think, it's just.
Look, it could be worse. We're a little bit, we're stretching it there.
Yeah,
but at the same time, I mean, Saturday, how many pitchers did you have in between your last pitcher and your starter? You had like 3 or 4, didn't you? I mean, you lost the game because of your relievers.
I think you got more than that. You had 4 in 1 inning in the 8th inning.
I think who was it? Literally had 1 batter, and then
Connor Ware.
Yeah, he had 1 batter, and it's just, you're right. It's not sustainable. You can't have that in the SEC. Like, if you're struggling to find a bullpen arm and you don't have your Griffin Herring, Gavin Guidry, somebody you can count on immediately, in your game 2 set, then I mean, yeah, you're gonna lose games, and you did on Saturday, and. If this team wants to start winning series against serious teams like Texas, they're going to have to figure out that Saturday spot, because clearly they can win the Saturday game and be okay. And look, you don't have to win the Sunday game. You can win the first 2 and be fine. Or you don't have to win the Saturday game and you can save your guys for Sunday. So whichever way you put it, they need at least 1 or 2 more arms out the pen, because
at least.
I mean, they're close.
They're
close.
They need 2 or 3 more, really, for SEC play. You need 2 or 3 more. You need 4 or 5 at least out of the pen.
I'm of the belief with the performance this week you saw, even with how bad the bullpen was on Saturday, I think that performance this weekend beats a lot of teams. I know the performance Sunday was bad, but I mean, you put Friday and Saturday together, I don't know very many teams other than Texas and like Tennessee and some other ones that can beat you on Saturday. I mean, I know it's the SEC, anything can happen, but I mean, play like that, right? Saturday and Friday, I thought was pretty good. I know the bullpen situation was not good Saturday, but again, I mean, Texas is also a good team, so.
Yeah, they are, and this LSU team has a good chance, in my opinion, to bounce back in this series against Mississippi State, which we'll preview later in the week. Let's do this. I thought about this before the show, just closing out. If you have any takes specifically on the LSU bullpen of what you want to see as far as, this is my take on it, or do you have your opinions on anything that you think, if you were Jay Johnson right now, what would you do what would you do to solve the bullpen situation, or to minimize it, or to help it? What would you do? And maybe if we get a few comments, maybe we could talk about it a little bit and the show we do later in the week to preview this Mississippi State series. Last thing, let's just go over the schedule for this week. We are recording this on, let's see, it is Monday, March 24th? Monday, March 24th is when we're recording this. So tomorrow, LSU has a game. Tuesday, March 25th, a home game at 6:30 in the box against ULL, against the University of Louisiana Lafayette. So that is the midweek game for LSU tomorrow in the box at 6:30.
And that's a big one.
Yeah.
The beef between Cajun-omics and the ULL fans, I mean, that's a real one. And the LSU fans, ULL fan beef, I mean, that's a real beef. I'll be at the game cheering on LSU because I think I'm like many LSU fans. I can't stand ULL fans right now.
Yeah, I got you. And then after that, it is not a Friday, Saturday, Sunday series. It is a Thursday, Friday, Saturday series for LSU this weekend. LSU's going to have 2 of those in a row, and it starts this week. They have a 3-game series against the Mississippi State Bulldogs in the box. First game is on Thursday at 7 in the box. Friday, the game is at 6:30. And Saturday, the game is at 2. So Mississippi State coming into the box this weekend. Thursday at 7, Friday at 6:30, and Sunday at 2. Saturday at 2. I'm sorry. I'm going to have to get used to that. Saturday at 2. Thursday, Friday, Saturday series. But thank you guys for tuning in. We appreciate the love and the support. Yeah, just let's keep at it. Keep rooting on the Tigers. And yeah, we'll good opportunity to bounce back against the Mississippi State team who's been struggling out of the gate in SEC play. So thank y'all for tuning in. Like, share, comment, subscribe. Give us your takes on what you think Jay can do with this bullpen. Maybe we'll include some of them in the show on the show later in the week, previewing this Mississippi State series. And we'll see you then. Have a good one.